Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Welcome back to the Ask Ralph show. The other day I had a client come in and he actually asked me a question that I really hadn't given much thought to, and he talked about cryptocurrency. And I must say I was a little embarrassed that I wasn't that up to school or up to speed on that. So I thought I would do some research, and my research led me to a very good guide that I found called What is Cryptocurrency? A Guide for Beginners. Now, I don't have a publisher on this because it was something that just appeared on the internet in several locations. But I thought it was a very good guide, and I thought we'd talk a little bit about cryptocurrency today. Now, I may have lost a bunch of people already, so let's start with the basics. A cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency designed to work as a medium of exchange. So think of it in terms of, US dollars and change, things like that. It uses cryptography to secure and verify transactions as well as to control the creation of new units of a particular cryptocurrency. So essentially, cryptocurrencies are limited entries in a database that no one can change unless specific conditions are fulfilled. So think about it in terms of, Bitcoin is a big one that a lot of people know about. So, Bitcoin is basically a cryptocurrency. So instead of having physical, dollar bills or $20 bills and coins, you have these algorithms or what they call public keys online. So if I've already lost you, I apologize, but let's dig a little deeper and talk about the history of these cryptocurrencies. Now, these basically started when the 90s tech boom took off, and there were systems like Flues, Beans, and DigiCash emerging on the market, but they eventually failed. And the reason they failed was because of fraud and financial problems and even friction between companies, employees, and their bosses. So it really was an attempt to do something that really didn't work. All of those systems utilize a third-party trusted approach, meaning that the companies behind them verified and facilitated the transactions. So it really appeared that, once the 90s tech boom came to an end, that these cryptocurrencies were going to not work. The creation of a digital cash system was seen as a lost cause for a long while. But then, continuing along our history discussion, in early 2009, an anonymous programmer, and they're not sure if it's a programmer or a group of programmers under an alias called Satoshi Nakamoto, introduced Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's probably something a lot of people have heard about, and if you've been following news recently, you've seen Bitcoin has been growing greatly in value, but it's also very volatile. Now, Satoshi described it as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Now, the difference with this and like a central bank or a currency is it's completely decentralized, meaning there are no servers involved and no central controlling authority. So it really resembles a peer-to-peer network, where one computer talks to another computer, which talks to another computer. Now, one of the most important problems that any payment network has to solve is double spending. It's a fraudulent technique of spending the same amount twice. Now, the traditional solution for handling this was there was a third party, a central server. So basically if, Joe had $100 and Sally had $100 and they wanted to exchange, they would use a trusted third party as a central server that kept the records of the balances and the transactions. Now, the problem with that most of the programmers saw was this method always entailed an authority basically control of your funds and with your personal details in hand. So, this third party would have to have your information, all of the information about your transactions. Now, so a lot of people didn't like that. So the idea was to build a decentralized network, and Bitcoin came along to do that. Every single participant needs to do this job. This is done via the blockchain, another big term, and I see this in the accounting literature all the time, which is a public ledger of all transactions that have ever happened within the network available to everyone. Therefore, everyone in the network can see every account's balance. Now, that might seem a little strange, but let's dig a little deeper. Every transaction is a file that consists of the sender's and recipient's public keys. These are their wallet addresses, for lack of a better way of explaining it, and the amount of coins transferred. The transaction also needs to be signed off by the sender with their private key. All of this is done with basic cryptography. Eventually, the transaction is broadcast in the network, but it needs to be confirmed first. Now, I'm going to lose a lot of people here, but let's just continue along here. Within a cryptocurrency network, only miners, that's a new term we're going to talk about here in a little bit, can confirm transactions while solving a cryptographic puzzle. They take transactions, mark them as legitimate, and spread them across the network. Afterwards, every node of the network adds to its database. Once a transaction is confirmed, it becomes unforgeable and irreversible, and a miner receives a reward plus a transaction fee. So that's how they're accomplishing that decentralization. So essentially, any cryptocurrency network is based on the absolute consensus of all the participants regarding the legitimacy of balances and transactions. If some of the people within the network disagree on a single balance, the system would basically break. So there are some built-in, pre-built, programmed rules into the network that prevent that from happening. Now, cryptocurrencies are also called because the consensus-keeping process is ensured with strong cryptography. This, along with the aforementioned factors, make third parties and blind trust a concept completely redundant. So what they've effectively accomplished by using this cryptography is they've eliminated the need for that central bank part. So that was the whole approach of this. This was a very a plan to build a decentralized network. Now, so, we've talked about, how did it start? We talked about what it is. Now, let's start talking about what you can buy with a cryptocurrency. That's a question that the client asked me the other day. He says, a friend of mine said I should really invest in these, in his particular one, I think it was called Light Source or something along those lines. There's a bunch of different ones. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, he basically said, I wanted to get in on the ground floor rough. He says, I invested $1,000 in this, and, 2 or 3 days later it was worth $7,000. And it goes back to the old adage of, you're not going to make money overnight. So I'm a big proponent of being careful about this and making sure that you really understand what you're getting into. So, just to back up a little bit, we've talked about what is cryptocurrency. We've mentioned that it's a digital or virtual currency. So, a lot of people ask me about this, and, I say, like, for example, a dollar bill. A dollar bill has value because the United States government says it has value. It's called fiat money. It speaks because the government says, if you present this, the government will honor it. Back in the old days, gold would do the same thing, or rubies or diamonds. You would have, an ounce of gold, and an ounce of gold would be worth something. So if you went to, buy something, you could say, well, listen, I got this ounce of gold, and the person would give you maybe 5 loaves of bread or something like that. Now that sounds like a ridiculous, idea, but that's the idea, is that there was value to it. Now, so the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency totally goes against that, in that the person doesn't have any medium, right there with them. There's no coins, there's no dollar bills or anything like that. It's really just a computer, key that is used to exchange this information. So before you jump into this, with, no holes barred, you really need to get a better understanding of the basics of this. Spend some time researching this. Don't dive into this, as an investment, blindfolded and say, I'll figure this out. This can all be, really simple and easy to figure out. Understand the decentralized nature of this. Now, we're going to handle what you can buy with cryptocurrency in our next session, so make sure you tune in.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.